Captain Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the cool metal of the airlock door, feeling the subtle vibrations of the massive alien vessel through her gloved hand. Behind her, the diplomatic team from Earth shuffled nervously, their breathing apparatus hissing softly in the recycled air. 3 years of careful negotiations had led to this moment, the first official contact between humanity and the Zephyrian Empire. The airlock cycled with a sound like whale song, deep and resonant. Sarah straightened her shoulders, adjusting the translation device clipped to her collar. As the senior xenodiplomat for the Terran Federation, she had trained for this moment her entire career, yet nothing could have prepared her for what waited beyond those doors. The corridor that greeted them defied human architecture completely. Crystalline walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, creating a living aurora that shifted between blues and purples. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, disappearing into misty shadows. Strange geometric patterns covered every surface, seeming to move when viewed peripherally. Ambassador Kelrick, a tall man with prematurely gray hair, whispered into his recorder. Initial observations suggest organic integration with technological elements. The aesthetic is both beautiful and alien. His voice carried a tremor of excitement mixed with apprehension. Dr. Martinez, their xenobiologist, was already scanning the walls with her instruments. "These patterns aren't decorative," she murmured. "They're functional, some kind of information network, maybe neural pathways integrated into the ship's structure." Sarah nodded. But her attention was fixed ahead where a group of Zephyrians approached. The aliens moved with fluid grace, their elongated limbs carrying them in a gliding motion that seemed to defy gravity. Their skin shimmered like oil on water, constantly shifting between metallic hues. Most striking were their eyes, large and multifaceted like jewels, containing depths that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. The lead Zephyrian stepped forward, its voice emerging from somewhere within its chest cavity, melodious and haunting. The translation device crackled to life. "Welcome, beings of Terra. I am Harmonizer Vexthul, voice of the Inner Circle. You have traveled far across the void to reach us." Sarah bowed slightly, a gesture they had decided upon after studying the few cultural exchanges that had occurred during the preliminary communications. "Harmonizer Vexthul, we are honored by your invitation. I am Captain Sarah Chen, representing the Terran Federation and its people." The Zephyrian's head tilted, those prismatic eyes studying each human in turn. "Your species intrigues us, Captain Chen. In all our centuries of expansion across this galaxy, we have encountered thousands of civilizations. Most follow predictable patterns. But you humans—" The pause stretched uncomfortably long. "You are different?" Ambassador Kelrick stepped forward. "Different how, if I may ask?" "Most species we encounter are either conquerors or the conquered, the strong who take what they wish, or the weak who are taken from. But humans seem to exist in a strange middle ground. You fight fiercely when threatened, yet show mercy to enemies. You destroy and create with equal passion. You are contradictions wrapped in flesh." Dr. Martinez shifted nervously. "Is that a problem for establishing relations?" Vexthul's head moved in what might have been amusement. "On the contrary, it is why you have been brought here. Our queen has expressed particular interest in your species. She wishes to meet with your representatives personally." Sarah felt her heart rate increase. Meeting with Zephyrian royalty hadn't been part of their mission parameters. "We would be honored to meet your queen, Harmonizer. When would this audience take place?" "Now," came the simple reply. The corridors they traveled through became increasingly elaborate as they moved deeper into the vessel. The walls displayed moving scenes of Zephyrian history, battles fought among distant stars, the rise and fall of civilizations. Sarah found herself mesmerized by the flowing narrative, realizing she was witnessing the recorded history of a species that had been spacefaring when humanity was still discovering fire. They passed other Zephyrians, each pausing to observe the human delegation with those penetrating crystalline eyes. Some made complex gestures with their elongated fingers, which Vexthol explained were traditional acknowledgments of peaceful intent. Sarah tried to memorize the movements, knowing that understanding Zephyrian body language could be crucial for future diplomatic efforts. The Queen's chamber was vast beyond human comprehension. The ceiling disappeared into a star field that might have been real space or an incredibly detailed projection. Floating platforms hovered at various levels, connected by streams of light that served as walkways. And at the center, on a raised dais that seemed to grow from the floor itself, sat the Zephyrian Queen. Queen Zelandra was larger than the other Zephyrians they had encountered, her skin displaying a richer spectrum of colors that flowed like liquid metal. Crown-like protrusions emerged from her skull, each one pulsing with soft light. Her eyes were the most striking feature, deeper and more complex than those of her subjects, containing what seemed like galaxies in miniature. As they approached, the Queen rose from her throne, a movement that somehow conveyed both grace and immense power. When she spoke, her voice resonated through the chamber without the need for translation devices, suggesting she had learned human languages specifically for this meeting. Humans of Terra. Her voice was like music made from distant thunder. I have studied your species for some time now. Your broadcasts, your literature, your wars, and your art. You fascinate me in ways that few civilizations have. Sarah felt the weight of that ancient gaze settling on her team. Your Majesty, we are honored by your attention and grateful for this opportunity to establish relations between our peoples. The Queen's expression shifted, those galactic eyes focusing intently on Sarah. Relations, yes. But first, I must understand something about your species, something that my advisors and scholars cannot explain through mere observation. A long silence stretched through the chamber. Sarah felt her teammates tense beside her, unsure of what was expected. Queen Zelandra gestured, and the floating platforms began to move, repositioning themselves to create a path leading to a previously hidden section of the chamber. I am about to show you something that no alien species has ever been permitted to witness. The heart of our civilization, the source of our power and wisdom. It is sacred to us, dangerous beyond your understanding. Ambassador Kelrick cleared his throat. Your Majesty, if there is danger— The Queen raised a hand, silencing him. The danger is not in the viewing, but in the choosing. For you see, the heart responds to different species in different ways. To some, it offers knowledge. To others, power. To most, it offers nothing at all, for they lack the complexity of spirit to resonate with its essence. Dr. Martinez stepped closer to Sarah, her voice barely a whisper. This sounds like some kind of test. Queen Zelandra's hearing was apparently more acute than they had realized. Indeed, Dr. Martinez, a test, but not one that can be failed in any conventional sense. The heart will reveal the truth of your species, the core of what makes humanity unique in this galaxy. The hidden section of the chamber was revealed as the platforms completed their movement. Behind a curtain of shimmering energy lay something that defied easy description. It appeared to be a massive crystalline formation, but one that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Colors that had no names in human languages played across its surface. The air around it hummed with potential energy that made the human skin tingle. The heart of Zephyr, the Queen said simply. It has guided our civilization for over 50,000 of your years. It is why we have prospered while others have fallen, why we have wisdom where others have only knowledge. Sarah stared at the impossible structure, feeling something deep in her chest respond to its presence. A warmth, almost like recognition, spread through her body. It's beautiful, she whispered. More than beautiful, the Queen replied. It is truth incarnate, and it is calling to your species, Captain Chen. In all our history, the heart has never responded to an alien presence, but your people. It sings for your people. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. What does that mean? Queen Zelandra's expression became unreadable. It means that humanity may be far more important to the galaxy's future than we initially believed. But to know for certain, one of you must approach the heart. One must touch its surface and allow it to read the depths of your species' soul. The chamber fell into absolute silence. Sarah could hear her own heartbeat, amplified in the stillness. The responsibility of the moment weighed on her shoulders like a mountain. Ambassador Kelrick stepped forward. Your Majesty, as the senior diplomatic representative— No, the Queen interrupted, her galactic gaze fixed firmly on Sarah. The heart has chosen. It calls to Captain Chen and Captain Chen alone. Sarah felt the truth of those words in her bones. Something about the crystalline structure ahead was indeed calling to her, pulling at something deep in her consciousness. She looked back at her team, seeing fear and trust in equal measure in their faces. What happens if I approach it? The heart will show you the truth of humanity's place in the cosmos, the Queen replied. It will reveal what makes your species unique, and what role you are destined to play in the galaxy's future. But be warned, Captain Chen. The truth is not always comfortable, and knowledge, once gained, cannot be unknown. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her species' future on her shoulders. Behind her, she heard Dr. Martinez whisper, Sarah, we don't know what this thing does. It could be dangerous. But looking at the Queen's expression, Sarah realized this was more than a diplomatic meeting. This was a pivotal moment not just for humanity, but for the galaxy itself. The Zephyrians, with their vast empire and ancient wisdom, were offering humanity something unprecedented, a chance to understand their true nature and potential. Your Majesty, Sarah said, her voice steadier than she felt. If the heart truly calls to me, then I must answer, for the sake of my species and any future we might have among the stars. The Queen's expression shifted to something that might have been approval. You understand the magnitude of this moment, Captain Chen. Very well, but know this. Only you may enter the heart's presence. Your companions must wait here, for the heart's revelations are meant for one consciousness at a time. As Sarah stepped toward the energy barrier, she felt a strange mixture of terror and anticipation. Whatever lay ahead would change everything, for herself and for humanity. The crystalline heart pulsed brighter as she approached, as if recognizing her presence. Behind her, she heard Ambassador Kelrick call out, Sarah, remember? You represent all of humanity in there. The weight of that responsibility settled on her shoulders as she passed through the energy barrier, leaving her team behind and stepping into the unknown. The heart's song grew louder, more complex, and Sarah realized she was about to discover what it truly meant to be human in a galaxy full of ancient and powerful civilizations. The energy barrier sealed behind her, cutting her off from her team and leaving her alone with the most sacred artifact of an alien civilization. As she approached the heart, Sarah could only hope that whatever humanity's truth turned out to be, it would be something the galaxy could accept. The moment Sarah's fingertips touched the heart's crystalline surface, reality exploded around her. The chamber vanished, replaced by a kaleidoscope of images and sensations that overwhelmed her human senses. She found herself floating in a space that existed between dimensions, surrounded by the accumulated memories and experiences of countless civilizations. At first, the flow of information was chaotic and terrifying. She witnessed the rise and fall of star-spanning empires, the birth and death of entire species, wars fought across galactic clusters, and moments of transcendence that lifted civilizations beyond their physical limitations. Through it all, she remained conscious of her own identity, somehow protected by the heart's ancient intelligence from being lost in the cosmic flood. Gradually, patterns began to emerge from the chaos. Sarah realized she was witnessing the heart's accumulated wisdom about galactic civilization, a database of every species the Zephyrians had encountered over their 50,000-year history. Each civilization was categorized, analyzed, and understood according to their fundamental nature. The Karathi were warriors who valued honor above all else, expanding their territory through conquest, but treating defeated enemies with respect. The ethereal collective existed as pure energy, having transcended physical form millennia ago, but losing all emotional connection in the process. The hive mind of Centauri functioned as a single consciousness spread across billions of bodies, achieving perfect efficiency but sacrificing individual creativity. Hundreds of species flowed past her awareness, each one representing a different path of development, a different answer to the question of how intelligent life should exist in the universe. Some focused on technological advancement, others on spiritual enlightenment. Some conquered, others explored. Some sought knowledge, others pursued power. But as Sarah absorbed this vast catalog of galactic civilization, she began to notice something troubling. Every species seemed to follow predictable patterns, developing along similar lines to civilizations that had come before. The galaxy was filled with variations on the same themes, recycled approaches to existence that rarely produced anything genuinely new. Then the heart's attention turned to humanity, and Sarah gasped as she experienced her own species through an alien perspective. The first human contact the Zephyrians had observed was a deep space probe launched from Earth in the early 21st century. They had tracked humanity's development through intercepted broadcasts, studying human culture, psychology, and behavior patterns. What they found defied every model they had developed for understanding galactic civilization. Humans were simultaneously the most violent and most compassionate species they had encountered. Human history was filled with wars of staggering brutality, yet also acts of self-sacrifice that amazed even the ancient Zephyrians. Humans would fight to the death to defend abstract concepts like freedom or justice, yet show mercy to enemies who had shown them none. Sarah experienced humanity's contradictions through the heart's perception. She saw human soldiers sharing their rations with enemy prisoners while battles raged around them. She witnessed humans destroying entire ecosystems while simultaneously working to save endangered species. She felt the confusion of Zephyrian scholars trying to understand how the same species could produce both Adolf Hitler and Mother Teresa, both nuclear weapons and humanitarian aid organizations. But most puzzling to the Zephyrians was humanity's relationship with the impossible. Every other species they had studied operated within clearly defined limits. Warriors fought according to established codes. Explorers mapped the unknown following logical patterns. Spiritual societies pursued enlightenment through structured practices. Humans, however, seemed to thrive on attempting the impossible. They climbed mountains because they were there, explored oceans without knowing what lay beneath the surface, and launched themselves into space with technology that barely functioned. When faced with insurmountable odds, other species would retreat or seek alternative solutions. Humans would charge forward, often achieving victories that should have been impossible. Sarah felt the heart's fascination with this aspect of humanity. In battle after battle throughout human history, smaller human forces had defeated larger, better-equipped armies through sheer determination and creative thinking. Humans routinely survived disasters that would have wiped out other species, not through superior technology or physical capabilities, but through an absolute refusal to accept defeat. The heart showed her the Zephyrian analysis of human colonization efforts. While other species carefully planned their expansion, choosing only planets that perfectly suited their needs, humans adapted themselves to hostile environments. They terraformed worlds that other species had dismissed as uninhabitable, lived in space stations that pushed the limits of engineering, and thrived in conditions that would have killed most other forms of life. But beyond humanity's physical resilience, the heart revealed something even more significant. Humans possessed a unique form of creativity that had never been observed in other species. Where other civilizations innovated within established patterns, humans regularly broke free from conventional thinking entirely. Sarah experienced the moment when Zephyrian observers first encountered human music. Their own artistic expressions followed mathematical principles and established aesthetic rules. Human music, by contrast, seemed to emerge from chaos itself. Jazz musicians created beauty from improvisation. Rock bands found harmony in discord. Classical composers built emotional cathedrals from mathematical relationships they barely understood. The same pattern appeared in human literature, where writers routinely broke narrative conventions to create new forms of storytelling. In human science, where researchers made breakthrough discoveries by pursuing theories that other species would have dismissed as impossible. In human philosophy, where thinkers regularly challenged the fundamental assumptions about reality that other civilizations accepted without question. As the revelations continued, Sarah began to understand why the heart had called to her. Humanity represented something genuinely new in the galaxy, a species whose development had followed no established pattern. They were chaos agents in a universe that had grown comfortable with predictable patterns of civilization. But the heart's final revelation was the most staggering of all. Deep within its crystalline memory banks, Sarah discovered the true reason for the Zephyrian Empire's invitation to humanity. The galaxy was dying, not physically but creatively. After millions of years of expansion and development, galactic civilization had reached a state of stagnation. New species continued to emerge and develop, but they all followed the same established paths. The same technologies were rediscovered, the same philosophical insights reached, the same mistakes repeated. The Zephyrians, despite their vast empire and accumulated wisdom, had realized that their civilization was trapped in an endless cycle of repetition. They possessed the knowledge and power to maintain their empire indefinitely, but they had lost the ability to grow beyond their current limitations. Every solution they attempted had been tried before by other species, with predictable results. Humanity's arrival in galactic civilization offered something the Zephyrians had thought impossible: genuine novelty. The heart showed Sarah images of human innovations that had amazed Zephyrian observers. Humans had developed faster-than-light communication using principles that Zephyrian science declared impossible. Human artists created works that induced emotional responses in alien species who had never experienced Earth culture. Human diplomats resolved conflicts between ancient enemies using negotiation techniques that no other species had conceived. The heart revealed that Queen Zelandra and the Inner Circle had been debating humanity's role for months before extending their invitation. Some Zephyrian factions viewed humanity as a dangerous wild card that could destabilize the careful balance of galactic civilization. Others saw humans as the galaxy's best hope for breaking free from the cycle of stagnation. Sarah realized that this moment, her contact with the heart, was more than a test of humanity's worthiness. It was a decision point that would determine the future of the galaxy itself. The heart was reading not just her individual consciousness, but using her as a conduit to understand humanity's collective potential. Through her connection with the crystalline artifact, Sarah felt the weight of the galaxy's expectations. Ancient civilizations watched through the heart's awareness, waiting to see what humanity would bring to their static universe. Young species looked to humanity as an example of what might be possible beyond the established patterns of galactic development. The heart began to show her potential futures, branching possibilities that depended on how humanity chose to interact with galactic civilization. In some timelines, humans became conquerors, using their creativity to develop new weapons and strategies that allowed them to dominate the galaxy. In others, they became teachers, sharing their unique perspective to help other species break free from their own limitations. But the most intriguing possibilities were those where humanity served as catalysts for something entirely unprecedented. The heart showed her visions of a galactic renaissance triggered by human involvement, where ancient species rediscovered their capacity for growth and change. She saw new forms of art and science emerging from the collision between human creativity and alien wisdom. She witnessed the birth of hybrid technologies that combined human innovation with the refined knowledge of older civilizations. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face as she absorbed these visions. The responsibility was overwhelming, but also exhilarating. Humanity had the potential to reshape the galaxy, but only if they chose their path carefully. The heart's communication became more direct, speaking to her consciousness in concepts that bypassed the need for language. It explained that the Zephyrians' invitation was not just an offer of alliance, but a request for partnership in an effort to revitalize galactic civilization. They wanted to learn from humanity's unique perspective while sharing their accumulated wisdom and resources, but the partnership would require trust on both sides. The Zephyrians would need to accept that human methods often appeared chaotic and unpredictable. Humanity would need to understand that their actions would have consequences across the entire galaxy, affecting civilizations they had never encountered. Sarah felt the heart preparing to release her back to normal consciousness. But before the connection ended, it shared one final revelation. Hidden within the deepest layers of its memory, she discovered the true origin of the Zephyrian Empire itself. 50,000 years ago, they too had been chaos agents. A young species whose unconventional approach to civilization had disrupted the galactic status quo of their era. But over time, success and stability had transformed them into the very force they had once challenged. The heart had been created during their early period of expansion, designed to preserve their original perspective even as their civilization grew more conservative. Now, faced with the stagnation of galactic civilization, it was calling for a new generation of chaos agents to continue the work the Zephyrians could no longer perform. As the visions faded and Sarah found herself once again standing in the Queen's chamber, she understood that humanity's role in the galaxy would be far more complex than anyone had imagined. They were not just being invited to join galactic civilization, they were being asked to save it from itself. The crystalline heart pulsed behind her one final time, and Sarah turned to face Queen Zelandra and her waiting team, knowing that everything had changed in the space of moments that felt like lifetimes. Sarah staggered as the energy barrier dissolved around her, her mind still reeling from the overwhelming flood of information the heart had shared. The Queen's chamber snapped back into focus, but everything seemed different now. The floating platforms, the star-filled ceiling, even the air itself seemed charged with new meaning. She was no longer just a human diplomat standing in an alien vessel. She was a representative of a species that could reshape the galaxy. "Captain!" Dr. Martinez rushed toward her, scanner in hand. "Your neural activity spiked off our charts. What happened in there?" Sarah held up a hand, still processing the magnitude of what she had experienced. Ambassador Kelrick and the rest of the team surrounded her, their faces filled with concern and desperate curiosity. But her attention was fixed on Queen Zelandra, whose prismatic eyes held an expression of profound expectation. "The heart has spoken," the Queen said, her voice carrying new harmonics that resonated through the chamber. "I can see its mark upon your consciousness, Captain Chen. Tell me, what did you witness?" Sarah took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would determine the course of human-Zephyrian relations, and possibly the future of galactic civilization itself. I saw the truth about humanity, Your Majesty, and the truth about why you really brought us here. The Queen's crystalline crown pulsed brighter. Continue. We're not here just for diplomatic relations, Sarah said, her voice growing stronger as the heart's revelations crystallized in her mind. You're facing a crisis that your entire empire cannot solve. Galactic civilization has become stagnant, trapped in endless cycles of repetition. You need humanity because we're different. We're chaos agents who can break the patterns that bind your galaxy. Ambassador Kelrick stepped forward, his diplomatic instincts clearly alarmed. Captain, perhaps we should discuss— No, Queen Zelandra interrupted, her attention never leaving Sarah. Let her speak. The heart has shown her truths that even my advisors do not fully understand. Sarah felt the weight of the moment, knowing that everything she had learned needed to be shared, despite the implications. The heart showed me your history, Your Majesty. 50,000 years ago, the Zephyrians were like us. Young, unpredictable, willing to attempt the impossible. You revolutionized galactic civilization through innovation and creative thinking. But success changed you. You became the establishment you once challenged. The Queen's expression shifted, displaying what might have been surprise on her alien features. The heart revealed this to you? It did more than reveal it, Sarah replied. It showed me that the heart itself was created to preserve your original nature, to remember what you were before stability and tradition made you conservative. And now it's calling for humanity to take up that role. Dr. Martinez whispered to Ambassador Kelrick, This is way beyond our mission parameters. We're talking about galactic politics we don't understand. But Sarah could see understanding dawning in the Queen's galactic eyes. You comprehend the magnitude of what is being offered, Captain Chen. Partnership with the Zephyrian Empire, access to our knowledge and resources, guidance in developing your species' potential, but also responsibility for the future of every civilization in this galaxy. I understand, Sarah said, and I understand the risk. We could destabilize everything, cause wars, destroy the peace you've maintained for millennia. But the alternative is worse. The galaxy dies slowly, one repeated pattern at a time, until there's nothing left but ancient civilizations going through the motions of existence. The Queen rose from her throne, her towering form commanding absolute attention. The heart has chosen well. You speak with wisdom that matches your species' potential for chaos. She gestured, and the chamber's platforms began to move, reconfiguring themselves into a more intimate meeting space. Your Majesty, Ambassador Kelrick managed to interject, while Captain Chen's insights are fascinating, the Terran Federation would need to carefully consider any formal alliance. This is not about formal alliances, Ambassador, the Queen replied. What the heart has revealed transcends traditional diplomatic relationships. Captain Chen, you must understand that accepting this role would change humanity's destiny forever. Your species would become shepherds of galactic evolution, responsible for preventing stagnation wherever it appears. Sarah felt the truth of those words resonating with something deep in her human nature. The heart had shown her that this was what humanity was meant for, why they had developed their unique combination of creativity, stubbornness, and compassion. What would this partnership involve? Queen Zelandra gestured again, and holographic displays materialized around them, showing star charts, technological schematics, and cultural analyses that made Ambassador Kelrick gasp. Knowledge, first and foremost. Access to 50,000 years of accumulated wisdom, technological advancement that would accelerate your development by millennia, and guidance in avoiding the mistakes that have trapped other civilizations. Dr. Martinez was studying the holographic displays with unconcealed amazement. These energy conversion principles, they're decades ahead of our current understanding, maybe centuries. But knowledge without purpose is meaningless, the Queen continued. In exchange, humanity would serve as catalysts for change throughout the galaxy. When civilizations become trapped in stagnation, you would intervene. When ancient conflicts reach stalemates, you would find new solutions. When technological development plateaus, you would introduce innovations that break the barriers. Sarah realized the full scope of what was being offered and what was being asked. You want us to become professional troublemakers on a galactic scale. The Queen's expression shifted to what might have been amusement. An interesting way to phrase it, but essentially accurate. Your species' talent for finding unconventional solutions would be directed toward the greatest challenges facing galactic civilization. Ambassador Kelrick looked overwhelmed. This is completely outside my authority to negotiate. We're talking about fundamental changes to humanity's role in the galaxy. The Federation Council would need months to debate the implications. Time we may not have, the Queen replied. The Heart's awakening signals that the crisis of stagnation has reached a critical point. Civilizations are beginning to collapse, not through war or disaster, but through sheer inability to adapt to changing circumstances. Without intervention, entire sectors of the galaxy could fall into irreversible decline. Sarah saw the urgency in the Queen's posture, felt the weight of cosmic responsibility settling on her shoulders, but alongside the fear, she felt something uniquely human rising in her chest, the same drive that had sent her species to the stars despite having barely mastered their own planet. There's something you need to understand about humans, Your Majesty, Sarah said. We don't just accept challenges, we seek them out. Tell us something is impossible, and we'll find a way to do it anyway. Show us a problem that stumped civilizations for thousands of years, and we'll probably solve it by accident while trying to fix something else entirely. Dr. Martinez nodded enthusiastically. She's right. Human history is full of people who succeeded precisely because they didn't know they were supposed to fail. The Queen's crystalline crown pulsed brighter. This is exactly what the Heart showed me. Your species' relationship with impossibility is unique in the galaxy, but are you prepared for the consequences of success? What kind of consequences? Ambassador Kelrick asked, his diplomatic training finally reasserting itself. Responsibility without end, the Queen replied. Once you begin serving as catalysts for change, every civilization you influence will become your responsibility. Every solution you provide will create new challenges. Every problem you solve will reveal 10 more beneath it. There will be no rest, no moment when you can declare your work complete. Sarah felt a smile tugging at her lips. Your Majesty, you've just described the human condition perfectly. We've never been able to leave well enough alone. Give us a perfect paradise, and we'll start looking for ways to improve it. Show us a stable system, and we'll immediately start wondering what would happen if we changed just one small thing. The Queen studied her for a long moment, those galactic eyes seeming to peer into Sarah's soul. The Heart was correct about your species. You are indeed chaos agents by nature. But the question remains, will humanity accept this role voluntarily, or must it be thrust upon you by circumstance? Ambassador Kelrick stepped forward. Your Majesty, speaking on behalf of the Terran Federation, I must say that such a momentous decision cannot be made by a single diplomat, even one as capable as Captain Chen. This requires careful consideration by our governing bodies. No, Sarah interrupted, feeling the Heart's revelations crystallizing into certainty. This isn't a decision for committees and councils. This is a moment that requires someone to say yes before we understand all the implications. She turned to face her team, seeing fear and excitement warring in their expressions. The Heart didn't just show me what humanity could become. It showed me what we already are. Every time we've faced the impossible throughout our history, we've found a way forward. not through careful planning or superior resources, but through sheer determination to keep trying until something works. Dr. Martinez nodded slowly. The Wright brothers didn't have committee approval when they achieved flight. Armstrong didn't wait for consensus when he stepped onto the moon. And Columbus didn't know he was discovering a new continent, Ambassador Kellrick added reluctantly. He thought he was finding a new route to Asia. Sarah felt the truth of their words resonating with the heart's revelations. That's exactly it. Humans achieve the impossible precisely because we don't spend too much time calculating the odds. We see a challenge and we charge forward, figuring out the details as we go. Queen Zelandra watched this exchange with evident fascination. Your species debates the undebatable, and then acts on instinct. Truly, you are unlike any civilization we have encountered. Your Majesty, Sarah said, turning back to the Queen, humanity accepts your offer. Not because we fully understand what we're agreeing to, but because refusing would mean abandoning our essential nature. We're explorers, innovators, and troublemakers. Being asked to do those things on a galactic scale isn't a burden. It's a dream come true. The Queen's expression shifted to something that seemed almost relieved. The heart chose its champion well. But understand, Captain Chen, this partnership begins immediately. Even now, there are civilizations throughout the galaxy facing crises that traditional solutions cannot address. She gestured, and new holographic displays appeared, showing various star systems in states of distress. The crystalline communes of Rigel are trapped in a philosophical paradox that has paralyzed their society for centuries. The machine intelligence of Proxima has achieved perfect efficiency, but lost all capacity for growth. The nomad fleets of the Outer Rim have been searching for a new home for thousands of years, but reject every planet they encounter. Sarah studied the displays, feeling her human mind already beginning to work on potential solutions. These aren't military problems or technological challenges, they're psychological and cultural barriers. Precisely, the Queen confirmed. Challenges that require exactly the kind of unconventional thinking that humanity specializes in. But be warned, each intervention will teach you something new about the weight of responsibility. Success will make you heroes to some civilizations and threats to others. Ambassador Kellrick shook his head. This is madness. We're talking about interfering in the internal affairs of alien civilizations. The diplomatic ramifications alone. Ambassador, Sarah said gently, human diplomacy has always been about finding solutions that nobody else thought possible. We turned enemies into allies, negotiated peace where war seemed inevitable, and built cooperation across seemingly impossible cultural divides. This is just diplomacy on a bigger scale. Dr. Martinez was studying the data about the crystalline communes. Their philosophical paradox involves the question of individual versus collective consciousness. They've been debating it for so long that they've forgotten how to make any decisions at all. Humans solved that problem before we ever left Earth, Sarah realized. We learned to be individuals within communities, to maintain personal identity while working toward common goals. It's not a paradox to us, it's just how societies function. The Queen nodded approvingly. You begin to understand the nature of the work ahead. Solutions that seem obvious to humanity are revolutionary insights to civilizations that have never encountered your particular combination of individualism and cooperation. Sarah felt the weight and wonder of the moment settling around her like a mantle. Humanity had always been a young species reaching for the stars, dreaming of contact with alien civilizations. They had imagined serving as junior partners in some vast galactic community, learning from older and wiser species. Instead, they were being asked to become the teachers, the innovators, the force for change in a galaxy that had forgotten how to grow. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure, exactly the kind of impossible challenge that humans had always found irresistible. Your Majesty, Sarah said. her voice filled with the quiet confidence that had carried her species from caves to starships. Humanity is ready to begin. Show us where we're needed most, and we'll find a way to help. Not because we have all the answers, but because we're too stubborn to accept that some problems can't be solved. Queen Zelandra's crystalline features arranged themselves into what Sarah realized was the first genuine smile she had seen from any Zephyrian. The heart was wise to call to your species, Captain Chen. Together we will wake the sleeping galaxy and remind it what it means to dream of the impossible. As new star charts appeared around them, showing the first destinations for humanity's galactic mission, Sarah felt the future opening like a flower. Behind her, she could sense her team's mixture of terror and excitement. The same emotions that had driven every great human adventure. Ahead lay challenges that would test everything humanity thought they knew about themselves and their place in the universe. But that had always been the human way, to leap first and build wings on the way down. Now they would do it on a scale that encompassed entire civilizations, armed with alien wisdom but guided by their own indomitable spirit. The galaxy had been waiting for them without knowing it. Now, the real adventure could begin.